What up, everybody? What up, everybody? Let me get to the spot. Let me get to the spot. Hey, everybody. What is going on? This is Plan Your Greatness, and I am your gracious host, Carlton Hamilton. And let's get started today. And today is Thoughtful Thursday. Yes, it is. And I've got a question for you. What separates you from everybody else in your industry or anybody that you are competing with? We're going to talk about that here on Thoughtful Thursdays on the Plan Your Greatness channel. All right, we are back. We are here on Thoughtful Thursdays on the Plan Your Greatness channel. And we are continuing. This is the last video, or basically this is a podcast of the What Separates You series. Now, over the past 6 or 7 weeks, we've been going through the 5 things that I used in my life that separated me from everybody that I was incarcerated with, and why it's been 20 years since I've not gone back to prison when you look at some of the crazy recidivism rates. So these are 5 things that I have done, and we did them in reverse order. We started off at the bottom, and number 5 was taking action, movement, getting out of your own way, of your own fears. And I made this comment, I said, from Mike Tyson, I said, life will punch you in the mouth soon as you, Mike Tyson said that everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And what I use is, I use a term, I said, your philosophy has to be over your feelings, meaning that your feelings are going to lie to you, but you also have to remember why you are actually doing what you do. And we'll get up to why in a second. Number 4 is, before you can take action, you must have a plan of action, because you can't get off into anything if you don't have some sort of plan. Your day's got to be organized. You got to have some deadlines. You want to have fun, sleep, food. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough said, what gets measured gets done. So if you don't have a plan and you don't have something that measures yourself every single day, you're not going to get to where you want to go. Now, also, that plan, you have to act immediately. And I tell this to people all the time. What I say is that once you make a decision on something, you've decided a plan, you need to act on it. And that's number 5 as far as action. But once you make that plan, you need to act on it immediately. Do something that activates that plan. And I use the example of when I was locked up in prison. And that was, I no longer had time to waste about anything. I didn't know whether I was going to come out and become a doctor or a lawyer, but I was swinging for a home run. And I did not have any time to waste at all. On one of my other videos, I put on there every single thing that I did during the course of the day, from the time I got up until the time I went to bed. I actually left some things out, but you can see that there was very little, at the most, maybe there was a 15-minute or a half-hour break in between one thing to the next, because I didn't want any idle time where I was going to hear some ridiculous negative advice or just the temptations of female guard or anything like that. I didn't want anything coming in the middle of me trying to be the best person I can be. All right. Number 3 is goals. Now, again, before you can take action, you must have a plan. Before you can say you have a plan, you have to have some sort of direction. You have to have some goals. All right. And again, when I was in prison, I set those goals out. Now think about this. I set goals when I was in prison that I wanted to be a motivational speaker. I said in prison I wanted to be a college graduate, I wanted to be a business owner, and I wanted to be an author. And as I was having this conversation with my daughter, what I realized was absolutely how ridiculous that goal was. But Les Brown said something that I didn't know at the time that I was practicing. I didn't know if I could be a motivational speaker, a college graduate, a business owner. I had been in special ed. I had graduated from high school with a 1.51 grade point average. I struggled in basically everything that I did. The only thing that kept me in school was the fact that I was an athlete, and there was an attendance clause. If you had to attend school before you could participate in anything. So that was the driving force for me to go to school. So here I am in prison. I've not done anything remotely resembling somebody who's going to be successful in any one of those areas. But what Les Brown said is, whatever it is, if you see it being just some ridiculously outrageous goal, just say to yourself, it's possible. And start moving in that direction. And the one beautiful thing about living in this world is that everything that you want to do, there is probably somebody that already has done it. So you can just go look and say, I don't know how that person did it. Maybe I'll give them a call. I'll send them an email on the internet or something if the person has a channel. And I'll just say, hey, man, how did you do this? Because I want to do what you doing. And I'm starting at the complete opposite. I don't know where you started, but I'm starting over at this place. And I know because you've done it, I know it's possible. So just, if anything, just give me some encouragement. Just say, hey, I can do it. But you could do it you could do it yourself by just looking and say, hey, if that fool did it, I can do it too. All right. Too many of us, as far as goals, too many of us believe that we can just microwave our way to success. And I've used the example of during the month of January, you've got Match.com memberships going through the roof. You got eHarmony memberships going through the roof. You got gym memberships going through the roof. And anywhere from 1 week to 5 months, they're all done. They are absolutely done with that. All right. So number 2 is options. And what I mean by options is you now understand that you have complete 100% control of everything that you are trying to accomplish in this world. You have control, which means you have options. Some people are absolutely afraid of facing that control because they know they really are just, in my opinion, they're just bullshitting. They don't want to put in the work, so they will just start making excuses. Oh, my dog, I got to take care of my grandma. And I'm like, you can do all of that. Because I'm actually one of the worst individuals that you want to start barking out excuses. So I go, okay. I said, do you have a felony conviction? No. Okay, do you have any I'm looking at you. You got all your arms, you got all your legs. You're having a conversation with me. So that means you have the wherewithal to understand. And I just had this conversation with my daughter the other day, and she just reminded me. I told her this when she was little, and it makes sense now. I said, one of the things that makes it very challenging for a teenager is a teenager will reach a point between the ages of about 13 to 16 where they can add, subtract, multiply, divide. They can read, write. They have a general understanding of just comprehension in conversations. They hear information, they process it, they spit it out, they can take orders, they do everything. And by the time they're 13 or 16, they usually are at their full height, especially girls. So now they're looking around like, I can do everything and I completely understand how this world is operating on a basic level. But now they can't do anything because they're not 18, they can't vote. They're not 21, they can't drive. I mean, they can't drink alcohol. They're not 25, so they don't get the best insurance rates. So they're operating in this space, but they know exactly really what's going on in the world. And that's what makes it very, very tough. And that's where most of us are, is that we don't embrace that part of life, of understanding that once we go past that 18 mark, we have control over everything. No longer are you restricted by your parents, a guardian, or uncles, or schools, or anything like that. You are now out in this world and it is yours. So some people have held on to that restrictive mentality, that scarce mentality. Now they're moving off into the world. But at number 2, where we talk about control and options, understand this. The obstacle is the way. This is a title from a book. And in the book, there's a quote that says, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. No longer are you looking at something and seeing it as just a block. It is actually telling you what you need to do. And that is the control that you have. And understanding that it has been 20 years since I got out of prison. And I was in a whole victim mindset of all these individuals. And over all that time, I've actually been able to look around and realize that I absolutely have 100% control. And this is one of the scariest things when we talk about number 2, is that when people look at their life and they relinquish the fact that nobody is really controlling them and stopping them of what they can do, that becomes scary, because then now 100% of the responsibility of what is in front of you and what type of life you have lived up until that point, that is absolutely 100% your responsibility. All right. So now it brings us to number 1. And number 1 is why. This is the number 1 reason or action that I took that moved me out of that negative mindset that I had, propelling me to where I'm at right now. Is that what I did was I created a why. I created a vision of what I wanted to do. Now, we reviewed the 5. Now, Napoleon Hill said something that I thought was very powerful. Now, if you don't know who Napoleon Hill is, he is the author of a very powerful book, and it's been duplicated in multiple languages and all kind of different ways that people have taken that book and rewritten it in kind of their style and sold it and said that, hey, these are originally my ideas. No, they're from Napoleon Hill. But Napoleon Hill had a 30-year study. And in that 30-year study, he interviewed and studied approximately 30,000 people. And Napoleon Hill came up with a number that you will hear me use quite often. Napoleon Hill said 1 out of 20 people, which is 5%. But I honestly believe he believes that number is probably less than that. But he gave it a nice round number. He said 5% of people have no idea what the heck they're doing here. And he breaks it down in about 17 lessons in the law of success. And then basically what people read, the Think and Grow Rich, that's actually the notes from his 700-page research, 30-year research of people's personalities and why people are successful and why other people are not successful. 5%, 1 out of 20, really know what they want, have what he calls a definition of a purpose, and they have gone after it and they have achieved it. They have not let anything get in their way. 1 out of 20. Now, this is absolutely just fascinating, because there is a scripture, and I use this because I say if you're not one of those 95, not one of those 5%, in my opinion, what I call you're a tool. Because, and I don't say that in a derogatory way, I say it in a metaphorical way, that if you are a tool, you are going to be used by the 5% to get what they want to get done, because you don't have a vision, you don't have a why. And for all you people out there that are the biblical scholars, look to Proverbs 29:18 in the King James Version, where it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Basically, what in my interpretation of that, and I'm not blasphemous in this regard, trying to give it my own interpretation, but the way it sits with me is that if you don't have any direction, if you don't have any vision, then what's going to happen? And I think in other scriptures, it basically talks about you have no direction, you're kind of rudderless, you have no identity, and now you can easily be moved by, emotions or by different things. But when you have a clear why, when you have a clear vision, none of those things are going to dominate you for any extended period of time where you can't stay focused on what you are trying to do. Now, at the same time, all you out there that actually maybe even have kids and you've watched, and this is a very famous movie from years ago. This is Alice in Wonderland, or Through the Looking Glass. There is this very powerful interaction between Alice and the Cheshire Cat. And it basically talks about having direction and where does it lead you. Alice says, would you please tell me, please, which way ought I go from here? The Cheshire Cat said, that depends a good deal on where you want to get to. And then Alice says, I don't much care where. Then the Cheshire Cat says, then it doesn't much matter which way you go. Now you see how powerful that is? Alice is saying, hey, can you help me get out of here? And then the cat goes, oh, where you want to go? She goes, I don't much care where. Then he said, it don't matter. If you don't know where you're going, anywhere will take you there. That is so very powerful. Now, let's go back to one. We are on why. You must have a why. You must have a vision. And this why and this vision sets the tone for everything else. Because if you do not have a why, you're not going to have options. You're not going to feel like you have control. You're not going to have any goals. You're not going to have a plan, and you're not going to take actions. You cannot work in reverse order. Say, hey, I'm going to take action. What am I going to take action on? Oh, I got a plan. What is your why? Why you have a plan for what if you don't have a why? Hey, man, I got these goals. Okay, these goals to hit what and why? Okay, man, I really feel I got control of my life. I really understand that every decision that I make, it really affects everything. Great. What are you going to do? And why are you going to do it? You must start with that what or that why and that vision first. All right. Now, there's going to be a video later on that I'm going to create, and it's going to talk about the blueprint. Now, we're actually in the very middle of the blueprint. Now, I have done 2 other videos, and I'll probably put them into the description. I did 2 other videos. One of them was that you must ask these 3 questions to start everything off. And then the other video was talking about what I call the 9 pillars of success, which as you are going through your life, you're going to need each one of those pillars. That's going to help you. It's going to support you because things are going to happen in life. Like I said, life is going to hit you in the mouth and you need to be ready. And that's when those pillars come in handy. Now, let's talk about that for a second. When I was in prison, I sat down and I said, Carlton, I said, you're going to get out of here. And that's a mathematical, statistical event. I had a 4-year sentence reduced from 69 years. Now, that's a long story. That's probably in one of my other videos. But I got my lawyer and everything, got my sentence reduced down to 4 years. No, I didn't snitch on anybody or anything like that. You can check my record. I didn't do that. It was just by the grace of God or power beyond me, which got my sentence down to 4 years. All right. So here I am, and I'm talking to myself. I said, you're about to get out very shortly. So what are you going to do? So now it started this process. I then began thinking, sitting, meditating. Carlton, what do you want to do, be, have, or become by the time you get out? So you can start moving in that direction. So you must ask that question first. What do I want? Then you move over into the second question, which is, why do I want it? Then you go over into the next question is, can I see it in my mind before it comes a reality? That's the first step. Then we get off into the 5 things that separated me from everyone else. Why is it that 20 years later, I didn't go back to prison and the recidivism rate is approaching 90%? That means that system is set up in such a way that once you get in there, it becomes very difficult to get out of it. It's been 20 years. So, and actually, like Malcolm Gladwell says, I'm an outlier. I'm an anomaly. I am a ghost because everyone else is now going back and forth into that system. But here we are in the middle. Once you ask those 3 questions, then you can ask the 5 questions, or you can take the 5 action steps that'll separate you. You review the why. Then you go with the options. I got control. I'm creating this belief, this faith, this expectation, and that this anticipation of where I'm going to be, what I'm going to do. Then you go to setting some goals. You become very committed. You set a deadline. You then take those goals and put them into form of a plan. And then you take that plan and you put it forth and you start acting on it. You put some action behind it. Those things get you moving. But then what happens is life is going to punch you in the mouth. So you must have these 9 pillars of success. These are like, just think of them like 9 clouds or 9 angels or 9 godfathers, mental godfathers that are going to help you along the way, because you're going to need these things to just kind of fall back on. And number 1 is, when you get out in this real world, whether you're in a corporate setting or you're in a regular setting, you must show up and show out. You got to show up. You got to show up. You got to show up on time. You got to show up on time with a plan. You got to show up on time and start executing that plan. You got to show up on time, execute the plan. And I think in a spirit of excellence, and then you'll get all the opportunities. But again, you first got to show up. Number 2 is you stop lying to yourself. You catch yourself making excuses, which is probably why you got in that situation in the first place. Stop lying to yourself. Be honest. Be truthful. At that point, you're going to start moving forward. Number 3 is that when you set a goal, when you get to number 3 of the 5 action steps and you start setting a goal, you make sure you give it a hard deadline. You stay committed to it. Give it a hard deadline. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough said, what gets measured gets done. So anything that you put a deadline on, you are almost assuring yourself that it's going to get completed, because now you've created a sense of urgency. Okay, number 4 is no excuses. Pretty self-explanatory. If you're up where I said stop lying to yourself, would go right in line with no excuses. If you say you're going to be somewhere, be somewhere. You say you're going to do something, do something. Make your word be your bond. No more of the things, because before, probably, I can go back and before that, everything that I look back on as far as what led me into prison were doing all these stupid things. And one of them was making excuses for why my career was over and why I wasn't transitioning well to the next level. Now, number 5 is master the gift of you. And that means find out what you do best and then drill on it and focus on it. What I found after my career was over, that I was a good writer, I was a good speaker, and I had presence. And I'm a good storyteller. So this is what I do. I have no problem creating this content. I have my hands in some other things, but it becomes very passionate to me as far as creating the content every day. All right, number 6 is no plan B. Will Smith, I use him as an example. In a interview, Will Smith said that if it ever came down to a acting position that he wanted, and if the person was more skilled than him, maybe better looking, he said it was going to come down to the treadmill test. And I remember the host looking at Will like, where are you going with this? And Will said it's quite simple. He said, and he was using the metaphor of the treadmill as hard work. He said that you and I are both going to get on this treadmill. He said 1 or 2 things going to happen. He said either you're going to get off or I'm going to die on this treadmill. He said I don't have a plan B. When I go after something, I go after it. And if I don't get it, then something else comes up in the place of that. All right. So number 7 is trust your mind's eye. And that is quite simply believe in the goal, the why that you have. Because what's going to happen is when you start telling it to other people, there's going to come somebody who looks at you and sees you nothing more than what you are at that very moment. So it's nothing against you. It's just that they have never seen you do anything more than what you're doing right now. So when you tell them that you are about to embark on something, or you envision yourself as something better than what you are right now, it's very difficult for them to see it. So they're going to look at you and be like, really? You about to do some? And you see how snarky that sounds? If you're not careful, they will steal your dream. They will just kill your thunder. So you have to very much be in the mindset that it doesn't matter. Whatever I have in my mind, that is what I'm going to set out to do. I'll give you a little story. There's this teacher by the name of Miss Jones, and she's got a 3rd grade class. And that class is always just super energetic, run all over the place. It's hard for her to keep them on task. But this particular day, the class was on point. And coming up to the last 15 minutes of the day, Miss Jones gets up and said, you know what, class? You guys have been phenomenal today. So I'm going to reward you with the last 15 minutes. You can put away all your work and you can do whatever you want to. Just make sure you're staying at your desk. Pull out your pens, papers. You can color. You can do whatever. You can talk to your neighbor. But just you guys, it's been great having you today. And so, yeah, these kids, they're like, woohoo, last 15 minutes. And you can just hear all the kids just doing all kinds of stuff, paper. And so she just walks around the room to see her little geniuses and see, you know, what they're doing. And she walks over to little Jamari's desk. And Jamari has his head down and he's writing with his left hand, just like a madman. And she looks and she goes, Jamari, sweetie, what are you doing? He kind of lifts his head up a little bit and he says, I'm drawing a picture of God. And she curls her face up with the Scooby-Doo look. And she says, sweetie, nobody knows what God looks like. And without even lifting his head up again, he just turned his side so his mouth can kind of project it out. He said, they will in a minute. That is the perfect story of not letting somebody's view of what they think something should look like, you take it upon yourself. And I've said that to my daughter. I said, do not apologize for someone else's bad behavior. That's the same thing. Do not adopt someone else's beliefs just because they have a different belief than you. If you are steady, you are focused on something, that is what you're going to do. All right, number 8 is don't be afraid to fail. That just simply means go try. Find out what it is that you can do best. Gary Vee, who is one of the most well-known social media influencers right now, he was at a function and he's mic'd up. And so he comes off the stage and the first thing this guy says to him, oh, Gary, I can't really find what I'm passionate about. And Gary Vee just looked at him right. He said, man, you ain't tried enough shit. You ain't done enough stuff. He said, have you ever thought of just saving up some money and look online at this gourmet recipe and go in the store and buy up everything for it and then see if you can make it? Have you ever thought about that? He said, it sounds silly. He said, but what you're doing is just trying to find out stuff that you might be good at that you've never tried. So that comes right back around to what he said. Go try stuff. And I've said this to my kids, and I've said this in some other videos. When people talk about they don't know what their passion is, when people talk about they're bored, they're uninspired, they're unmotivated, to me, those are all excuses. They're cop-outs. Because if you are bored on something, go try something else. If you're unmotivated in something you're doing, go do something else. If you're uninspired with what you're doing, go try something else. If you haven't found your passion yet, go try something else. There is absolutely no excuse for you to continue to be doing something and it's not motivated and it's not inspiring, but what you're doing is you're just sitting there because you're waiting for, and I've said this to my kids, I said, what anybody does that says that they are waiting for the world to inspire them, as opposed for them to seek out inspiration in just the trying of things, the process, the doing. All that is just, that's a lazy mindset. To say you're uninspired, to say you're unmotivated, say you haven't found your passion, to say that you're bored. Every time I say one of those words, it actually gets me fired up because there is nothing that I look at and go, that's bored. I just said, I'm done with that. I'm going to move over and find something else that inspires me, that motivates me. Okay? No excuses with that. All right. The last one is maximize our day the night before. What I mean by that is think of what just happened to you today. Was it a great day or was it a shitty day? Okay? So think about that for a second. Specifically, those of you that had something happen in your day that really wasn't the greatest thing. All right. So what I want to make sure you do and what I do is that at the end of the day, those are the last things that, matter of fact, I don't even think about them. Other than just saying, that didn't work. Okay, I'm going to try. What am I going to try tomorrow? So the night before, because I honestly believe, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is my belief. I believe that when I go to sleep, at that moment, that silent space that I am asleep, I believe that is when I'm communicating with the most highest intelligence there is. And that highest intelligence is everybody who is coming, who is here, and whoever was here. All of that up there, to me, all of it is great energy. And so I'm not going to take that, my negative thoughts or whatever on the day into that space. I'm going to take my greatest thoughts. I'm going to take my ambitions. I'm going to take my expectations. I'm going to take my anticipation. I'm going to take my belief. I'm going to take my faith and everything that I am trying to accomplish on a great level. And I'm going to take that in there. Okay. It's almost like you're trying to talk to a girl. So, and I've said this to my kids. I said, if you like a girl and you know she dated someone else and you may even know their shortcomings, why would you approach that girl and just start info dumping? Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? That fool wasn't no good. He didn't do this. He had no job. He whoop-de-whoop. He was this. He wasn't no good. You know what I'm saying? Blah, 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 blah. Just start dumping on the guy. Very much like politics, which is, you know, I don't understand. Well, I guess I do, because it's kind of an indictment on us as human beings, that how have we allowed politics to get to the point where they don't talk about what their platform is. What they do is talk about what somebody is not doing, or what their perception of what somebody is not doing. The only thing that I tell my kids, I said, if you want to go out with somebody, all they should be hearing about is the sales pitch with you. They should know you funny. They should know you like this or you like that, or they should know that you're interested in them, as opposed to trying to devalue someone else to make yourself look better. That never works. The person probably thinking less of you because you're sitting over here just talking bad about that other person. So again, maximize the day the night before. Put all the positive thoughts of that day into when you're going to sleep, or you're just putting the ideas of what you want to accomplish tomorrow. Guarantee you do that for 2 or 3 days, you will start waking up very motivated. Because if I'm talking about all the things that I'm going to accomplish the next day, then I'm looking forward to waking up. I'm looking forward to having a good night's sleep and getting started on a good note the next day. All right. So now, those are the nine pillars of success. Now, that brings me to mind. There's a couple of individuals out there that actually they were very motivating to me as I got out of prison, because they put together some very inspirational writings. And so I want to share that with you now. Viktor Frankl, if you've never read this book called Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, it's a story of a guy that was actually in the Jewish Holocaust, the concentration camps. Viktor Frankl had a PhD in psychology. And so after he got out, he wrote his book, Man's Search for Meaning. From my understanding, it took him about 8 days to write this book on his experience. And Viktor Frankl said 2 very powerful things that I want to share with you. And these are things that I really resonate with me. Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And basically what he was saying, as I internalize that, he's telling me, or I'm saying to myself, okay, I done got locked up in prison. Now, what I decide to do in that space of time in prison is going to have a huge impact on what happens afterwards. And it is obvious to see that in that space, I tried to make something out of it, because the recidivism rate says that if I did nothing with that time, I'd be locked right back up in prison. But I've done something with that time. I now have a college degree, and I started that process while I was in prison. I'm a business owner. I took business classes. I didn't know what I was doing, really. I took business accounting. I have a business that deals with some of that, and I have a college degree. I'm now a motivational speaker, and I'm an author. All the things that I set in motion in that space while I was in prison. Viktor Frankl also goes on to say that ever more people today have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. He is basically saying that when he was in there, he saw people that were he saw them at the moment. He said, I see that person. That person will not last. And then he saw other people. He said, that person is going to make it. Because when I read the book, Viktor Frankl said that when he saw people with a real reason to live, either they wanted to make sure that they reconnected with their son, their wife, or they had some sort of project that they had not finished. They wanted to make sure that they lived and endured. They stayed strong so that they can actually move to the next level. And he's saying, here he is now, he's out of these camps, and he's looking around and he's going, man, there are all these people right here that don't have any sort of reason to live. And they should just be thankful with just being here and being the best person that they can be every day. Amazing. And I see that every day right now. So when I hear people just out there bitching and moaning and complaining, I'm going, why are you complaining? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going, do you have a felony? No. Are you black? And I'm talking, summing up. You don't have a felony. You ain't black, you ain't left-handed, you ain't pigeon-toed, you weren't in special ed, you didn't graduate high school with a 1.5 grade point average, you didn't come from some dysfunctional home environment, you don't have a divorce, you didn't have an injury that robbed you of a professional baseball career when you were on the precipice of making millions of dollars. You didn't go through depression, homelessness, incarceration. So what are you complaining about? Yeah, that's what we have. We have people that are too busy looking at all the negative things. Everything that I just listed right there, those are all things that I have. And I've shared with my kids, I said, I have so many strikes against me, but I choose not to look at them and focus on them. I just say to myself, well, those things are there. I jump on them like it's a soapbox. It's like, you just imagine this square cube with all those things written on it, and I'm standing on top of it. I'm going to succeed regardless of all this other stuff. It doesn't matter. I'm going to succeed anyway, or I'm going to die trying. Now, Friedrich Nietzsche says it well as well. He says, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Friedrich Nietzsche is basically quoting, or Viktor Frankl is basically quoting Friedrich Nietzsche, that if you have a strong enough why, you will be able to endure the horrible conditions in a concentration camp. Now, the last one for last. This one is Benjamin Disraeli. This was a political leader with a very, very powerful story on how he rose to power. If you want to look him up, Benjamin Disraeli's phenomenal dude. When you are doing that, you are absolutely 100% planning your greatness. So, all right, hit the like button, subscribe button, share button, hit the notifications. You can catch me on Instagram. You can catch me on Twitter. Just all the little platforms. And if you have some comments, make some comments in the comment section below. I'll try to get back to you as much as I can. I do multitask. I have this channel, but I have a lot of other things. And so I'll end it with this, as I always do every week. Plan your greatness. You know why? Yep. I'll say it again. Plan your greatness. You know why? Because no one else will.
Was all alone. No one knew he was home.